we heard you say over and over this year that you guys just couldn't get over the hump after a little time off here. Is there anything specific you would point at as the reason for that?
Nothing's changed with that. We played games where we had committed as low as 4, 6 turnovers in games. In other games where we were 21 turnovers. There were multiple games where we were in single-digit turnovers. But on the wrong night, we turned it over too much. There were a number of times we shot over 50% in games. But there were a number of times at the wrong time when we couldn't make shots. I thought when we were 4-0 in conference, and some other times our defense was being played at a high level, but other times, especially in transition defense, it made the difference in us being on the short end. We never could put it all together on one night, on a consistent basis, and that was the story of our season. Excuse me.
So when that happens, the cause of that is what? Or is it if you knew you would have fixed it, now would have happened?
Yeah, like I said, when the season ends, last season, the season before that, I always go do an evaluation and, to see what we could have done better. I always do that as head coach. And, I have to point back to there's something as head coach that I did not do so that we were more on the same page in the different aspects of the game more consistently. It goes back to me. I have to go back and, like you said, if you knew exactly what we were doing wrong on that so that we couldn't be doing a better job, it would have been fixed. And at times we thought it was fixed. When we came back, hey, there it is. We're taking care of the ball. There it is. We're really guarding. And then we revert back. So just have to find a way to get our team to not revert back. There were many times we did things on the floor that we showed we were capable. There's some things you just don't have it. You can't do it. Your makeup of your team can't do it. Well, this team showed at times we could do certain things at a high level. We just did not do them consistently. So that falls on me. I have to find a way to do it better.
You had CJ and Scott that you knew you could get scoring out of. Those were your two best scorers going into the year. I mean, you had a lot of expectations from Mark McLaughlin to be that guy that you could also get some points out of as a third option. How much did that really change what you went into the year doing?
Quite a bit. Mark can put points up on the board. And he does it in a way to where he doesn't necessarily have to be hot from outside for him to score. He scores in a lot of different ways, and he's done it at every level. He's done it everywhere he's been, and we're pretty confident going in that he would do the same thing here. But we can't. It wasn't here, So Scott, spent time where early on he was hurt in and out. He couldn't get in a rhythm. I'm not so sure. I just don't know. We tried to guard against this. We really did with the foreign tour last year. We tried to guard against fatigue and burnout at the end, but you went in. Scott and CJ, when they had their problems from the outside, you just wonder, did legs have anything to do with it? Were we not giving our guys enough rest? Guys are practicing with not a whole lot of subs. You just wonder. Again, you wonder. When you don't have as good a season as you like, you try to find something. And maybe that has to do with it. A coach's job, every team has its deficiencies. Some have less deficiencies than others. But a coach's job is to try to identify your deficiencies and try to find a way to play above your deficiencies.
You already have those identified for next year?
We will not have a depth issue next year. That will not happen next year. We will not have a depth issue, which will allow us to pressure run for longer periods of time. You go back and you look at our some of our former teams where we did not have a depth issue. And you'll see a guy may have played 30, 31 minutes a game, but then some other guys 28 minutes a game, 27 minutes a game, and you're spreading those minutes out, and you're just sending fresh bodies in there, and guys are relentless in their attack. We haven't been able to do that the last 2 years, not only this year, but last year. We haven't been able to do that as much, and I think that's one area right there that I think today has already improved.
Who's going to allow you not to have the depth issues? Obviously, you've got to have some guys on the roster that need to step up that didn't play a lot this year then.
Well, we don't not only have guys that return, but we have guys coming in too. We have guys that we have recruited that are coming in. So when you combine the two, as a whole, we're just not going to have that issue. It's hard to predict Mark McLaughlin wasn't going to be here. You go into the season thinking our depth is fine. It's hard to predict he's not going to be here. It's hard to predict someone's going to get hurt. Well, we'll be able to survive things like that happening next year. Obviously, 2, 3 key people, starters, get hurt and they're not there. Different story, but like I said, the depth won't be an issue. Now will allow us to do some other things, play back like the way we're capable of.
Did Austin not playing and deciding not to play this year and moving forward, did that also affect your depth, or was that not really something you were counting on?
No, we didn't. When we looked at our depth chart, we didn't count Austin in because we just didn't know what he was going to do. If he would have come, that'd have been a bonus, but we didn't pencil him in.
How do you get more points out of this offense, which was just, I mean, it averaged, what, about the lowest since you've been here? What was?
Several ways, I should say. If you check our statistics since we've been here and you just look at how many turnovers we forced and how many steals we had, you'll see that it was about as low as we've been. 5.2 steals a game is all we had. And it just shows we weren't as relentless on the defensive end. And, if you're going to score a third of the time in your half-court offense, a third of the time in transition, and a third at a time in free throws and offensive rebounds and out-of-bounds plays, all those things, that third, a lot of that is caused and created by your defense, that transition piece. And we just didn't have a lot of transition this year. So that's a third of your offense that wasn't there, your complete offense. In the half-court offense, I go back again, you have to look if you look at film at the shots. I'm not talking about transition where we're scoring a lot of points. I'm talking about you don't have transition. Now you're in the half court. When you are in the half court, I challenge anybody to go look at the years past and see the shots we were able to get in the half court and look at this year, and I'll tell you, we got good shots. There were times when teams guarded us and did a good job of taking us out of what we were doing, but that wasn't the norm. And as many teams did that to us, I can tell you we did it to them too. And someone else did it along, sometimes teams just match up really well and be able to take you out of what you want to do. Hopefully on those nights, because you're hitting the glass, because you're out in transition, and you're getting to the free throw line, you're guarding, you're still able to get by those nights. But in the half court, when you say your offense, it had a lot to do with just we weren't able to create much offense outside of half court. And you look at our shooting percentages individually, we just didn't shoot the ball well.
Do you see a way of getting more shots closer to the basket? And that doesn't necessarily have to be from your big guys. Obviously, last season it came from road, and so it could
from
be
the pros.
Big, it could be what
Yeah.
whatever. But as you go forward, how do you get more baskets or buckets near the basket?
We have to get better individually. We'll get more.
How?
We're going to go around and around on this one, if you choose to. I'm sorry, I can't be more creative. I'm trying in my mind. That's what's taking me so long to answer this question. Because we'll have more basket makers.
Was the implementation of
Sometimes, seriously, sometimes it's that simple. We'll have more guys. Jamal Williams was on our team, you wouldn't be asking me this question. That's a compliment to Jamal. That's not an insult to anybody else.
Are you talking about Paris Blackwell?
Pardon?
Are you talking about Paris?
Yeah. Paris Blackwell can make baskets. Yeah. If Paris were on our team this year, we would we'd won more games.
A lot of people haven't seen him. Can you maybe just tell us a little bit about him? Does he remind you of a taller version of Jamal?
A little bit. You know, he has that tough touch around the rim. He's that guy that gets the ball up on the board. Some guys have to catch and think how they're going to put it in. He catches and just puts it in. He has those instincts around the basket. He can get the ball, catch it at the free throw line. He can drive around you. He's a good offensive rebounder. He has some toughness. He's just a good offensive basketball player. And, you know, that helps. We just, you know, across the board, we couldn't get over the hump in terms of making baskets a lot, and Paris is good.
You mentioned the thing that a lot of people have brought up about Paris, toughness, and at times, maybe you really missed that this year, that pit bull, tough guy, attitude guy.
Yeah, I think sometimes guys can be really tough, but they're not as skilled. And some guys are skilled but not as tough. I think a guy like Paris possesses both. He's tough and he's skilled. That's what you like. That's what you like about him.
Do you think that he can play on the court with a guy like Sean Kelly?
If Aziz and Sean play together, Paris certainly can play. Paris is very agile and nimble. For a guy 6'8" and a half, 265, he's really agile.
Is he big enough to play center, or?
It's, you know, in our system, it's who does he guard, and he's strong enough to guard a guy 2-3 inches taller, and quick enough to guard a guy that's on the perimeter that's a little quicker, and experienced and smart enough. Sometimes guys can be older, but they've never been feature guys, so you have this experience, but no one's experienced at being a feature guy. He's been a feature guy before, and he's had big games in college before, so he'll be ready to go.
Getting back to your notion on the defense and kind of struggling in that aspect of it, was the implementation of the new offense kind of what took away from that? Maybe you had to focus more on the offense, and as a result, your defense struggled, or is that not a fair statement to make?
I don't think it focused on the defensive side. I just think our lack of depth, and I don't know if we had the personnel this year to really get in people. We had some that did, but by and large, as a group, I don't know if our personnel allowed us to do that, like in years past.
But you feel it will next year?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Where do you see Martin fitting in next year? Obviously, he got some minutes a little bit earlier in the season.
Martin is going to transfer. Didn't mean to cut you off, but
No, thank you for cutting me off. I'll let you make it cool.
yeah.
Is there anybody else, any personnel that's moved?
Not to my knowledge.
And he's transferring because?
Oh, he'd like to play more. Some guys transfer and they're just impatient. They just want their way, and they haven't worked hard. So wherever they go, they're going to run into the same problem. Unless they transfer to a much lower level where the competition isn't as stiff. That's not Martin's case. Martin's been great. He's come and worked. There's some guys ahead of him, and he just, he'd like to have another opportunity to play more. And we totally support his decision. And we're behind him. We're going to be in spring workouts. He'll be a part of our spring workouts. He's still with us. We don't see him as a traitor or anything like that. Mar's a great guy. Great guy.
What do you think of Andrew at the point this year, and what can he be better at when it comes to running the team and running the point next year?
Andrew's entire career, he's had the ball in his hand, but he's never really had to run a team. But he just made plays and carried his team. This year, there are times he had to run a team, and he reminds me, not comparing them as players, but he just reminds me of how Isaiah was early in his career, where Isaiah had just had his way so often, he just felt he could just go into the lane and do it, impose his will. But at this level, teams are pretty good. They scout you, and they have size and quickness and strength, and they take some of your strengths away. And I thought this year he was just learning and working his way through those things. I think he will be a good point guard for us because he has the intangibles that you can't teach: the toughness, the drive, the physicality, the ability to find people. When he put his mind to it this year, there were times he'd find people and make great passes. He was also tough driving to the basket. He can guard the ball, put pressure on the ball. So he has a lot of attributes that a good point guard has that it's hard to teach. The others, I rather that and have to learn the point guard position as opposed to being this great cerebral guy that doesn't have a whole lot of talent. So he'll get it. I'm glad we have him. He's going to be a big part of what we're doing.
So do you see him, I know in the past often you said that you just have guards. Is he just a guard, or is he point guard and then we'll play off the ball some, or do you have a designation for him at this point?
I think he's a guard, more of a point guard, but a guard. I think he's a scoring point guard. That's what I think he is. Like Isaiah was. I think he's more one of those type of players. I wouldn't say Nate. Nate was probably more of a guard, just whatever, he's going to do it, you know. And Will Conroy, you know, we've made reference to Will before when Andrew's name comes up. And, you know, Will, early in his career, had a scorer's mentality. He scores 32 at Gonzaga as a sophomore. So he was certainly capable of putting the ball in the basket. I think he scored 16 points and a half against UCLA at a home game, brought us back single-handedly scoring. Some guys, you can give them the ball the entire time and say, please score 16, and they can't do it. He was capable of doing it. It took him until probably midway through his junior year or his senior year that he was able to finally just embrace that. So he got it. And Andrew is very intelligent and ambitious, and he'll be fine. He'll get it too.
How much? Excuse me. Reminder on the teleconference, *6 to mute, please.
How much did he defer, do you think, just by the nature of the roster this year, and how much more does he need to be?
Andrew?
Yes. And how much more can he be like the guy you're talking about, tenacious?
I think Andrew, I think he did defer. I think Andrew is an all or nothing guy. And for him to say, okay, Abdul has the ball in his hand, I'm coming off the bench, I think I can go out and get 30 tonight, but I just turned it over a couple of times. I need to be tentative a little bit. I think sometimes that's why he didn't shoot the ball well, because he didn't just go out and feel comfortable in some cases to just go do it. So I think next year he'll have a lot better feel for that. I think he could make a huge improvement, huge jump from this year to next year.
You got
Well, nights
coming
when-
in, that will probably be, from what he's advertised, another bulldog type of winner type mentality, but how much do you need Andrew specifically to be more of that intangible?
I think we want him to be that, but I think he will be that. Again, I just think Andrew just showed up during the move and just said, anywhere I can help, I'll help. You want me to lift this? You want me to lift where do you need me to help? You know, and That's kind of how it seemed like he approached it this year. But you give him one specific job, I think he'll tear it up. And I think he'll have more of an opportunity to do that next year. And I believe him and Nigel complement one another.
Can you say what that'll look like with Nigel and Andrew together?
Well, we're not designating starting lineup right now,
Right.
but they know each other. There's already good chemistry there. I think you're talking about two tough guys out there that both of them can guard 1, 2, or 3 positions. So they're kind of interchangeable that way. They both have a very strong will that impacts the final score in that game. So I think they're both going to be terrific next year.
Have you had the NBA talk with CJ yet?
Yes.
And just how did that go?
It went good. It went good. It would be what you would think. You know, the paperwork has been turned in for the undergraduate advisory committee with the NBA, and that committee over the years has been gold. They've been golden. I can't believe how accurate they've been from what they say. Like the mock drafts, those things aren't accurate. You know, when you get that list back from the NBA advisory committee, it's pretty accurate from what they say, the range, and then when you watch the eventual draft and you see who gets drafted where, those things are pretty close. So we'll wait, get feedback, then he'll evaluate where he's at.
And this point with your depth talk, are you penciling in CJ with the depth in mind for next year, or have you kind of separated them out just in case he decides to?
Every year at this time, when guys are in that situation, it's too early, it's April,
Right.
when they decide what they're going to do. And so we don't have to pencil in anybody yet, you know. So we have so much time to where we haven't even got to that.
You have a feeling at this point as to where he's leaning?
No. We have to wait and see. I don't think he's leaning to do anything. He's leaning on hearing the feedback and then making that decision when he gets it.
Do you think he's done enough at this point to make that jump, or is it all incumbent on what he hears?
I really do think he's really going to base his entire... When Isaiah came out, he didn't care what the committee said. Man, you guys are crazy. Oh, yeah, all right, I'm little again. I got you. Yeah, I'm short. I'm too short. Yeah, okay. That was how Isaiah was. Brandon, Quincy, John Brockman, they wanted to know. Because if the committee felt like the feedback they had, and it's not just the committee. We make calls to the individual people we know in NBA front offices and scouts, but when they felt they were all second round guys, they all said, well, I don't want to risk it. I'm going to come back and try to get better and improve our team and improve my position. So they're different. Nate was the same way as Isaiah. I'm gone, I don't care. So everybody's different.
And it seems also in this case that you have a good relationship with him, whereas there's some players who say, that's okay, coach, I got this, we're going to take care of this family-wise.
Yeah, and some players do choose to do it that way. In CJ's case with him and his dad, his parents, his family, they've been real good in talking through this whole thing. They've not really held back, and they've been good. It's been good.
Can you talk a little bit about Jannard and Sean and what they really need to work on in the off season?
Well, Jannard has been in position to make so many plays, and sometimes it was just due to a lack of strength, and sometimes it was just due to a lack of experience out there. But I can't tell you how many times Jannard had the ball in his hands and didn't end up with the ball in his hands, or makes a drive where he just goes right by his defender, just blows by him, but when he got there, didn't quite finish it. those things are going to start to work out for him. At times they did this year. I thought he had a couple of really good games, and in conference he had some good games. So I thought Jannard he was a freshman this year, redshirt freshman, but he was a freshman. I think he's another one of those guys that could take a big jump next year.
Is that depending on work ethic? I mean, you've had guys here that just live in the gym.
He doesn't have a problem with work ethic. Jannard has a really good work ethic. It's like him and I were talking, though. You know, we all feel when we're athletes that, you know, the only reason I'm not in the pros right now is just because I haven't had the chance. You know, a lot of guys feel that way, but some guys have further to go than others. And when he started out, that was one of the reasons. You know, he decided to redshirt. It was a great move because he was just behind in strength and experience. You know, he had broken his wrist his junior year, couldn't play. You know, he missed a season. Just little areas like that where he goes from 6'3" to 6'10" in 3 years in high school. There's some areas he had to overcome that, in my opinion, set him back a little bit to where it just was going to take him a little longer. Well, he was coming. He's coming now. And, he's improved his shot. He's improved his ability to rebound the ball. He gets his hands on balls. He's just not a whole lot of guys like him running around with his skill set, his package, his height, 7'4" wingspan, all that. I think he'll make an improvement. Sean, I think, his last 14 games he started averaged close to 8.5 points a game. That's usually my gauge for freshmen. If you can average 8 points a game as a freshman, you're going to be a pretty good player. Unless, I wouldn't consider us a bad team this year, but we weren't a great team. You know, if you're on a really bad team, and maybe that you can't use that. But I think on a decent team, you average 8 points a game in college as a freshman. Those guys usually end up pretty good. And he gets 15 and 11 on the road in a tournament situation in NIT. I thought that was a great way to finish for Sean. And Sean is one of those guys that he catches it and puts it in the basket. He catches it, there's a defender there. He just moves it and puts it in the basket in one motion. You know, some other guys, it's like, I call it a handoff, where the guy's right there and you put it right in his hands, he steals it. He's got a little bit of savvy about him and some instinctive moves that allow him to be a better offensive player. And he's strong. He's really strong and athletic. So he's another guy that I think will take a big jump. So we've talked about 3 guys on this team that I think will take big jumps next year. And referencing back earlier your question, will you be able to score more? I think guys will be able to make shots better next year.
Do you think anybody will use the red shirt next year?
Now, you know, we never know that. We never know that going into the year until we start practicing. Then when we start practicing, if that's the case, then you evaluate that.
With UCLA firing Ben Holland, you're inevitably linked to that open position as the rumor mill starts here. How do you handle that with recruits, your current roster, the school, and the administration when something like that happens?
It's been my position, what I've done in the past, is I think people know me and we've been through this before. No, I know you're going to take Timberwolves. Come on, it's the NBA, come on. No, I'm not going to. I think people kind of believe that when we say it, so our players, they don't even ask me about it, to tell you the truth. Recruits, they always ask, but if I sat here and told you the number of, I'm not boasting at all, I'm just telling you the situations that have come up that I didn't entertain, you know, didn't even if I've had conversations with them, it didn't materialize into anything. There's been a lot, and it hasn't happened. So when the UCLA situation comes up, last year it came up, And the fact that I work there and I'm from there, I think it's a natural for it to come up. Anyone that's worked for them usually comes up. So I don't do a whole lot, to tell you the truth. I think in years past, I've just been truthful, been upfront with people.
Have you gotten a call from them, even just to ask, well, who do you think would be a good hire?
No.
But that wouldn't be so odd. Do you think, that they would call you? Did they just ask you that?
I wouldn't say odd. I wouldn't say it would be odd. I just don't think they'll do it.
We just put it to bed that that's not something you're interested in, even if they offer you a Roscoe's franchise.
You know, Roscoe? So how many jobs are open out there? So let's just bring them all out and just go one by one. If this job opens and you go, would you be, if they offered, would you go? I mean, to me, that's senseless to just keep talking about, all right, this job is open, so would you take that, would you take that? And, I've said, I don't know how many times, Washington wants me, I'm here in Washington. Yeah, I say that a bunch of times, but I say it again, like, and I'm messing with you.
No, I mean, you could put it to bed by saying, no, I'm not going anywhere, I'm here.
But I've constantly said that.
Right.
Yeah, I keep saying it, and I said it last year when they asked me about the UCLA situation.
Are you surprised that Howland was fired?
I would say I'm not surprised based on, now you didn't ask me if it's right,
No.
but if I'm not surprised based on the things that have happened, and I'm not so sure there had been some negative press. It had nothing to do with wins and losses, and you just don't know if that came into play. I don't know, but I know the expectations are there at UCLA, high expectations. But I just wonder if, the other peripheral things did some damage in that situation. One of the things about UCLA, about the unrealistic expectations, and I've talked to people about, well, they went to 3 Final Fours. Well, they didn't win it. Wow, those are serious expectations, I think today, in today's climate, I think people will say all that, but I still don't think you're totally vilified if you're going to Final Four at UCLA and you don't win it. I think there's some people that would say that. The thing about UCLA and Coach Howland is there are some places, some programs that there are high expectations, but the people don't understand that those expectations are hard to be met. They forget how difficult it is to get there. It's difficult to get to the Final Four, period. I don't care who you are. It's even more difficult to win a national championship. Fran Dunphy at Temple, if there was some type of way to measure, some formula, who really are the best coaches, regardless of what they've won, Fran Dunphy would be in their top 10. How many championships did Pete Carrell win? How many Final Fours did Pete Carrell? People tell you he's one of the greatest coaches ever coached in college. But he wasn't in a situation at Princeton where they were going to win national championships. But if there's an outcry at Princeton, we don't know if Pete Carroll's the right guy, we haven't been to a Final Four, those people just don't know basketball. But at UCLA, there is the ability to get all that done. You can get that stuff done over there. You can't do it with Wooden. You can't do what Wooden did. That's not going to happen. And I don't know why some people think that maybe this will happen. Maybe this will be the coach. It's not happening. It's not going to happen. Just with one and done, the way it is, the parity nowadays, it's just not going to happen. But if you're talking about expectations, you got expectations across the board, where at least at UCLA, you have a chance to meet some of those expectations. Some other places, the expectations might be there, but it's just too hard to get there.
So what are the expectations for you for next year? Obviously, you have a lot more depth coming back this year. What are you expecting after coming off of 2 NIT appearances?
I expect us to be much better and much more consistent. And if we're much better next year, that can take us places.
So would it surprise you, or would you say it would be kind of a step back to make 3 NIT appearances next year and miss the NCAA tournament next year?
I'd be very disappointed if we didn't play well enough to be much better. NIT, NCAA, I say we'll be much better, and if we're much better, I would think the highest postseason situations would work out for us.
That it?
Just a question,
Hello?
Coach Jackson, can you talk a little bit about the impact Coach Jackson had on the team? We didn't talk to him a whole lot, so.
Yeah, Coach Jackson was wonderful. You know, he just has so much good insight into the game, and when he's making suggestions, when he's making strong suggestions, you don't feel that he's making it up on the fly. You don't feel like it's an emotional suggestion. I'm telling you, this is what we need to do because I know this works. And that's great to have. His insights, he's had so much experience in dealing with so many different situations that he can draw from those experiences and help you. And he was a huge help. You look at our season, you say, well, maybe it wasn't that much of a help. You didn't win. Now, people don't understand. He's really good at what he does. He really knows his stuff.
High post offense, here to stay.
Yeah, yeah.
Chris, did you have something on the teleconference?
Yeah, Coach, just real quick. Was just wondering about Gilles and maybe his development. I know you mentioned some of the other guys and maybe the jumps that they'll take. What about some of the other guys like Gilles and maybe like a Hakeem or some of those guys?
Gilles is skilled. Gilles is a good passer. He has really good hands. You know, in terms of half-court offense, high-post offense, he makes good decisions. He can help us in that regard. And, you know, he has good size. He was at a smaller school, Florida International, but he does have a year of experience playing at this level. So I think he complements our guys really good. Hakeem is, you know, he's going to work hard. Hakeem is athletic. He got to get a lot of reps playing the point guard this year for us in practice a lot. And there were several times throughout the course of the year that he had made big improvements, made big progress. So he's going to work hard.
And just with Gilles, what is he going to be? Especially, I guess, on defense, Coach. Would he be a guy that would venture out to the perimeter? Or is he more of a guy in the post? He looks like he could probably be a pretty versatile guy that way.
He is not a guy that can just get out like Mike Jensen was 6'8", but Mike could get out and switch onto a guard, and he could really show on the ball screens. And, you know, one of the reasons we were able to really pressure during those days is because of Bobby Jones and Mike. Those guys could get out on the floor and really pressure. He is not stellar that way, but he's functional. He's not a liability.
Thanks.
You're welcome. There was another question?
Yes, I have a question. As far as this past year, a lot of people have commented to me in various situations about Abdul, his shooting form having maybe problems over time and not quite ever coming together. And, you know, Abdul had a great career at UW. But about his shooting form, he seemed like he shot with his elbow out a little bit, which is kind of unorthodox. And that's not to say someone in an unorthodox shooting form can't be good at shooting the ball. But as far as that goes, there's other guys on the team that are younger coming up, maybe Jernard, that maybe have little problems from the standpoint of classic shooting technique, maybe in the way that they shoot or such. How do you address those things with your team as they come up? And what do you think about that issue?
About poor shooting form?
Of course, another question I wanted to ask too is I remember the way you shot the ball was a little unique too, but if it goes in, it goes in, and that's the thing. But tell us about what you do with your team as far as teaching these guys to shoot over time. What's the process, and how do you feel about the way that's been going?
We always work with our guys individually during the season and in the off season if they have any shooting issues. Sometimes it's the confidence isn't there. I think Abdul shot 13% from the three-point line as a freshman. Then he came back before he got hurt, and he was shooting close to 50% overall. Thought his shooting had really improved. This summer, when we were on the foreign tour, Abdul shot about 55% from the three-point line. Sometimes just, your confidence isn't there as much as it should be. But if your question is how do we work with our guys shooting, it is we work with them individually, and we will get them on film. They'll see themselves on film. We'll break it down from scratch, have them work on one-hand shooting form until they gradually get back to their regular shot, and we try to adjust it. My opinion is I think you can become a better shooter over time, but sometimes the time that you have in college doesn't allow it. I think over a 5 to 8 year career in an NBA, you can over a period of time become a much better shooter. Again, I always say with the shooting gurus, guy that just can't shoot at all of a sudden he's knocking threes down left and right. I want to meet that guy. I think when you get to college, again, you can become from a 25%. I think Nate Robinson shot 29% from the three-point line as a freshman, and by the time he was done, he was shooting in the high 30s, and he continued to where he could knock threes down easily. He improved, I think, over a period of time. Isaiah Thomas improved with his three-point shot. We've had guys that really have improved. We've had others that, no matter where they are, they can't shoot. So they can't shoot. Every now and then that happens. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, that was good. Do you yourself get involved a lot with teaching shooting, or is there other guys on your staff that really you delegate some of that work to, or how does that process work?
Our staff, our whole staff is capable of teaching. I get really involved in the shooting aspect of it. I like to, especially in the spring. And we did it with different guys in the summer. I can remember back to Jamal Williams. We spent an entire spring working with his shooting, and I thought he improved his outside shooting as a senior. We've worked with John Brockman. We tried to work with Matthew Bryan and Manning. We've spent a lot of time with a lot of guys. We work with Desmond Simmons on the shooting, and the staff is involved, but I'm heavily involved also.
What is it about this team coming up next year as far as shooters? Do you think it's going to be an upgrade, or do you think it's going to be a challenge to be as good of an outside shooting team as you were this last year?
I think we will. Scott and CJ were our best three-point shooters this year. Scott will be gone. We don't know about CJ yet. We'll see. But I think as a whole we'll be a better shooting team next year. We better be.
Okay. All right, thanks a lot.
All right, thank you.
One last, Brian?
Yeah.
Are you there?
Yes.
One last question, Coach. Art Teal here.
Oh, hello, teammate. Teammate, do you guys know?
Well.
Do you guys know Art and I used to play in the IMA all the time? Just to let you know, that's the teammate reference. What that's about. Go ahead, Art.
And let me thank you for being the only guard in the IMA to drop the ball into the big man.
Yeah, I always prided myself on making others better, Art.
So back to the UCLA question. I couldn't hear it very well in the teleconference, so let me ask it more directly again. Has anybody representing UCLA's athletic interests contacted you about the vacancy?
That really gets to the point. No, sir.
Ah. And if they did contact you, would you hang up or would you chat?
I will say this. I've had many of these conversations with teams in the past, with schools that have talked, and I didn't just hang the phone up on them. You know, we talked, but I've never had a situation where I said, you know what, we need to sit down and talk and meet on this and talk further. That's not something I'm looking to, you know, it's USC and UCLA, they're both open. I haven't asked one person to call on my behalf and all of that, so I don't know what else to tell you.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear, a direct answer to a direct question. Well done.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right. That's it.
All right.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.